All right, I'm going to walk through the dictionary of the vulgar tongue. And vulgar is a word that now we would describe, vulgar means rude. And this lesson is a super exciting one. I quite enjoy this. Here's what we are going to be up to. Our goal is to better understand colonial life from the 18th century America. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use some slang words to do so. And we're going to understand that for people throughout history, there's been the use of slang to both make groups, separate groups, and that's what we're looking at today. 33% of the stuff is coming from our classwork, what you and your partner are doing together. About a third of your grade is coming from your completed organizer and materials. About a third is coming from the performance and the listening behavior to others during those performances. And so this is set up where you're not going to be able to get a super duper high grade by missing out on one of them, because 66% gets just about a D. But by hitting 2 out of 3, you should be getting yourself to a point where you are at least passing, which is super duper awesome. Our objective is to use some of these 18th century words to write a skit, and then at the end of the skit, the audience is going to guess what that modern translation of your word is going to be. The two materials that you're going to use a link to the dictionary and a graphic organizer. And I'll walk you through the graphic organizer first. Here's the graphic organizer. You're going to see that there is a selection for writing down the names of the people who are in your group, a total of 3 people within. As we're putting through our graphic organizer, you would put down the names of whoever is in your group. So I'm going to be in my group, and let's see, I'm going to work with my dad, and then I'm going to also have in my group my sister. The word that's selected. Now, this is going to be using our digital dictionary to select the word. I'm going to do this off of a slang term that I'm hearing from one of my other locations I like to be at, which is Mount Cato. I like to go skiing. When I'm at the ski hill, I'm hearing some different slang terms from individuals who are snowboarding or skiers in the park. In the park itself, that is a slang term for the train park, the spot with all the jumps and the rails and boxes. Now, if you pull off a really cool trick, you wouldn't say it was a cool trick. You'd say it's a sick trick. And that doesn't mean that as I'm looking at somebody go down a rail on a snowboard, they're blowing their nose or they're taking their temperature. They're not sick. A new word that I've also learned there is butter. Some people were going down, they were doing some really cool tricks, and I heard somebody else say, like, hey man, that's really butter. And I didn't know what butter meant, but I had to use some context clues. I knew I didn't see that person fall. I knew that when they did their trick, they looked super smooth. So what I learned was that butter meant smooth. I never asked anybody what butter meant. Later on in the day, I tested my theory out. I did a cool trick, and I said, man, I pulled that off and that was butter. And another guy said, yeah, it was sick. 2 slang terms in that conversation. And I confirmed to myself, butter, smooth. It went off nicely. So for this activity, you are going to use a term from the digital dictionary. I'm going to use butter as my example from the ski hill. What was the meaning of the word? The meaning is a trick that is pulled off without an issue. It also is smooth, smooth like butter. In the skit section, use the space below to create a script for your skit. When you perform it, you'll say the word in context clues to allow the audience an idea of what you mean. We're not going to say the word. We want the audience to guess. We do not need to use all the boxes. The boxes continue on the other side. As you're typing, you're seeing that there's a lot of boxes. Do we need to use them all? We don't. If you need more, put your cursor in the bottom box, press tab, and you'll create as many as you need. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to write my script, and I'm going to say, Paul starts off and Paul says, hey, did you see that great trick in the park. I need to set up the context of where this is taking place. Because if I said, hey, did you see the butter? Maybe we're at a restaurant. Maybe we're in a grocery store. Maybe we're doing a cool trick. It's hard to tell. It's not providing enough context. So then my dad would say, yeah, I saw your sister pull off that sweet grind. And then maybe my sister comes down and she says, I just did a really nice trick. It was super smooth. That's my context clue. Remember up here when I accidentally deleted it? We have the definition: a trick pulled off without an issue, smooth. So my sister now is giving us our context clue, our really good hint. We're using our definition, but we're not really telling people what it means. And then I'm going to go off and I'm going to add my slang term and I'm going to say, yeah, that was really butter. And that would be an incredibly short skit where we use our word, and at the end of the performance, we would ask the audience for two guesses to tell us what this word meant, and we would understand maybe someone's going to say it's super smooth. Okay. Here's our dictionary. The words you're going to pick are the super old words from the 18th century. And this is a dictionary that was published to try to help people understand what these words are. There's a lot. We also need to remember that inside of this dictionary, we have the use of our long S. And we know from our Peter Zenger activity that our S isn't always looking as we know it is. Sometimes it looks like an F. I know that there's no word that says a famart, femi, fellow. Fellow is a word. I recognize that. But this long F is an S. As you go through and you're looking at all of these words, there's a lot of pages for these words. You might select some of them, you might not select others. If I don't know how to say a word, I probably won't select it for my skit. Maybe I'm going to instead pick one that I know how to pronounce and how to say it. Reading a dictionary, we've got our word here and our definition following. Okay. Your word is before the period, your definition is following. For our skit, I'm going to write the definition somewhere in my skit. I'm going to use the word as my example. Now, for this one, there's a French author, Victor Hugo. He wrote The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This is a Hugo reference, and it's, I can't even say it, Hugo Theonequiferians. The Aryans is a type of person. The Inarians, that's going to be the suffix for a group of people from somewhere. And we know it's a society that was appreciating this author's work, Victor Hugo's author. A society existing. That's going to be our use of the long S there, existing in 1748. You'll go through, you'll select one of these words. Some of them are kind of blocked out. I should have blocked out this one. The ones that I blocked out are the ones that say, like, look at somewhere else. And so this one, shoulder sham, a partner to a file, see file. I should have blocked this out because I don't have the page that says file. So some of these words I've blocked out because it tells you to look somewhere else in the dictionary. The dictionary is like 400 pages. I only took about 16 of them. And so that's why some of these are blocked out. And this one was continuing from another page. So you'll notice some of them too. Like this one says to go somewhere else. This one is from the other page prior. I just blocked it out because we don't have access to that other page. I deleted it. Once again, Peter Zenger, the use of the long S. Once you select a word, you'll go through, you'll get ready to make your skit. Your skit's about a minute. Most kids are doing about a minute. Everybody's got to speak at least one sentence. You include context clues, but not stating what it means. After you perform, we're going to take two guesses from kids who are doing super good listening. They'll try to figure out what your word was. Quick talk about our skit to make sure that it's school appropriate. If you're in doubt whether something is school appropriate, leave it out. We have all heard jokes that are funny. We have all heard jokes that are mean. There is a difference. Just because something is funny, it does not mean that it is not mean. We're following our school expectations, making sure that it is school appropriate. If you're in doubt as to something being inappropriate, leave it out. And that's how to do the dictionary of the vulgar tongue activity.